What's going on out there, everybody? Thanks so much for tuning into your soul mapping astro weather report for August 20th, 2019. I'm Thomas, and the astro weather report is where I synthesize aspects of astrology and the 64 hologenetic archetypes to give you a better idea of some of the energies that will be at play today, from the genetic all the way on up to the cosmic levels. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and definitely some powerful movement today we have kicking up a lot of fire, a lot of creativity. The moon is still making its way through Aries, where it's going to be trining over to all of this energy up in Leo that's now bridging into Virgo too, trining over to Venus, trining over to the Sun, trining over to Juno. It will be trining over to Mars, and this is going to kick up a lot of creativity, a lot of ideas, a lot of desire, a lot of sparks, a lot of beautiful stuff. And yeah, this is going to be really great, feeling finally some forward motion in certain areas, but it is going to come with some interesting work that we have to do at the same time. We also have Mercury, which is starting to make its trine over to Jupiter, both in fire signs. So much fire kicking up today as we move into the rest of this week. Really supportive energy starting to move in if we can really trust and surrender and drop certain veils that we have in ourselves. We want to be mindful when we navigate these energies, right? Because what's essentially happening right now is we have a lot of energy between Venus and the Sun up on the 29. It's going to be on the 29.4, opposed to the Earth over on the 30.4. And the moon is going to be trining over into all this energy, but the moon will be doing this on this code that is really about starting new things. It's really about innovating. It's really the 3 is really about all this creative potential to, really everything that actually becomes into anything that actually becomes alive in this world has to go through the 3. The 3 is such a powerful energy for actually providing the genetic material and deciding what it is worth actually birthing on this dimension, what's worth, what's not worth. But this comes along with a little bit of chaos in terms of actually ordering and structuring that genetic material to see what's going to get birthed and what's not. And today there can kick up a lot of fire around all of these different potentials for genetic material and really channeling them into a beautiful new container, right? So what's going to happen throughout this day is that the moon's going to be trining over first to Venus, where we're going to start to look at all of these things and how their value comes into play. What do we connect with, this feminine aspect of ourself, and where it wants to flow, what's actually valuable in terms of money and relationships and resources, and what we can actually say yes to with the current resources that we have available to us, or what is important to us in our heart, and what do we value, and how do we connect with others. And then it's going to be trining over the Sun to take a look at, okay, what is actually in front of us? Where is the light shining? How does this actually look with what's come into play in terms of how the creative light of the Sun is actually spraying out this energy into the potential seeds, and how those could actually be received and supported, right? And then, but this is opposed to the Earth on the 30.4, which is saying, where is the opportunity to fulfill our desires, our personal desires, and how can we balance that within the collective? And a big thing that's coming into play right now is this issue of trust, right? And this is how this is actually kind of coming into play at this time, right? It's like, what if you were to actually be able to have everything that you wanted, and everyone else was actually able to be supported and have everything that they wanted? But in order for that to actually happen, that you would have to drop those guards to be able to simultaneously have this mirrored reflection of where your guards drop so other people's guards can drop, so that there can actually be a synergy and a conversation that takes place, right? Because it's like, kind of like everybody's walking into this room sort of like maybe to negotiate some sort of peace treaty, right? And everybody that's been going into this peace treaty has all this wounding going on, and it's all these battle scars and things like that. They feel hurt and they feel shamed, or they feel undervalued, or whatever it is. They each have their own personal things, right? If they come to the table with the weapons loaded and guns drawn, we're not going to get very far when it comes to actually making any sort of peace treaty, right? but everybody really wants the same things, right? People want to come together, they want to co-create, they want to work on uh, providing solutions that are actually going to make everybody happy. But that's not going to happen unless the guns can get dropped, unless the spears and knives and swords and those energetic things internally that prevent us from actually coming into this safe space where we can talk about how everything can work out the best for everybody. And this can seem confusing at this time because if everybody's coming to the plate with how they fit in and what their wants and needs are and what they want to say yes to, this the mind can come in and play these tricks and say, well, it can look like, do I have to do all these things? Am I saying yes to all of these things? Yes, but on a higher level, right? Because we're coming into this more collective container where everyone is able to work together and everything can happen. And it's a matter of coming into these agreements of how this can be structured, where you can focus on what you love and give to that thing that, as the moon trines over to Mars on the 59, is that thing that your personal masculine identity, your drive to push forward, that thing that energy can say yes to. But first we need to look at everything, all the pieces of the puzzle, where the light's shining, what's valuable, and how that thing that you can say fuck yes to, as Mars is on the 59, which is all about intimacy and impregnating things on an energetic level, or literally impregnating things on a physical level. This is also about diplomacy and how this balance goes on so that we can resolve conflicts. And Venus is coming into its conjunction with Mars very soon on this energy, and it's about bringing into balance and being able to create this intimate container for the masculine and feminine, for what has this drive to push forward and actually ground things in the Virgin, right, which is Virgo. This is like this womb like container where the masculine energy we have, our drive, is ready to really put this energy into and really penetrate into the thing and say, let's go on this, let's take action. And the feminine is kind of trailing behind at the moment. Venus is like, yes, but like this has happened before and I wasn't really received right or balanced. And then these two are going to come into a conjunction, which is actually going to begin a completely new cycle where there can be this balanced, honest, intimate relationship going on between all parties. And this isn't just between men and women. This is between collective things that are going on, actual collective intelligence that's birthing out of all of this energy in Leo, because Leo is the sperm, right? If you ever look at the Leo sign, it's actually a sperm, because this is the sun, which is the divine child. And this new collective intelligence is wanting to be grounded and impregnating the earth right now, but the earth is actually wounded, right? We look at the earth, there's this previous masculine sort of patriarchal energy that kind of really didn't honor a lot of things involved, but at the same time that was necessary to actually expand things to this point where we have had these technologies and this interactions where people actually could come together to ground in this new container that's much more powerful, that's actually going to bring things into balance. And we're going to create these systems and agreements of checks and balances with people so that we can feel safe to be vulnerable, so our desires can get met, so the collective picture can come online, so everybody can actually ground in these things that they want and reveal an entire new myth for the planet, reveal how we can actually operate on these levels and be sensitive to the planet, sensitive to our inner feminine, and nurture ourselves, and also stay steadfast in that inner masculine that's like, no, this is my purpose and this is how I'm wanting to bring these things to the table, and I'm willing to compromise to a certain extent as long as I'm still bringing my purpose into this equation and it's being honored. And yes, I want to honor all of the other people involved in these types of things as well. So very powerful time we're moving into, kicking up a lot of creative energy. And then finally tomorrow, we're going to have this moon conjunct Uranus, where if as the moon trines to Mars in the 59, we can be transparent with our desires and our masculine and be able to hold steadfast in that purpose, the moon is going to conjunct Uranus and deliver us this sort of level up on the physical, right, on the matter reflection, right, because we're doing all this energy work spiritually in this creative energy with Aries on this high level etheric plane over to Leo, which has to do connecting this with our heart and making sure that it's a balanced flow of Kundalini between all of these levels. And then finally the moon will conjunct Uranus and say, okay, on the 27, have you been selfless enough to remove your lower identity from the equation, but also just be honest with what your needs are? And then the moon will deliver this heightened level, kind of like a, elevator up to where the external reality is actually going to mirror and support with these things, and beginning a new cycle where then we've made more of an idea of what we're going to give our energy to, and then we can start gathering the supporting physical material things to actually produce that container. But lastly, Mercury is still trailing behind. So this sort of vision, right? Mercury is trining over to Jupiter, so we're starting to see that there's a much, much longer timeline at play in all of this, that there is sort of like a cosmic timing that has to come into play where all the pieces of the puzzle are going to reveal themselves as they go. So we need that trust and surrender to realize that Mercury still has to play catch up to all these other energies for the lower sort of small mind to really actually make sense of all the details. Lastly, I'm going to be tapping into the cards to see what's the overarching energy that we can expect. What can we tune into to help us move through some of these different energies and tap into that highest level timeline that's really calling us to step into it throughout all of this process. And Gate 9, taming the power of the small and focus. And yeah, so this is so perfect right now, right? Because the 9 really, what it asks us to do is realize that every action that we're taking plays a much, much larger part in the divine orchestra, that how we begin something, the energy that comes into the little things is actually ripping out, whether that's doing the dishes or that's, having a conversation with someone, that we actually have to provide this intense focus on these little things for the bigger picture to have these energetics that we actually want to carry through, right? So if we begin something from this place of lack or under self-worth or whatever it is, that energy can actually ripple out into all these things, or that when we do these little things, that this energy can actually build and snowball into a much bigger picture, right? The 9 is all about invincibility on its highest level, because we see that as we make these small little decisions, all this energy builds behind us until there's this weight that can actually push through and actually conquer anything, right? It's like when we're building something, we want to pay attention to all the small, minute little details, so that when the entire house is built, it actually can be that invincible energy where it's like there's not any sort of pieces that can like easily crumble and fall on the wayside, right? So hope this has been helpful for you. As always, tap into your innermost authority, see if it feels right for you, and thanks for tuning in to the Astral Weather Report.